Yee-hoo. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to episode 126. All right, guys, back again with another great guest. This guy, we kind of were chasing each other, trying to get each other on each other's shows, and finally we got it done for his, which we can talk about later on. And he has a really interesting story, and really good guy. So I was happy to get him for my show. You want to tell us your name and a little about yourself?
Oh, my name's James Purdue, and spinal cord injury, quadriplegic, and going from there and living the best life possible.
There you go. When did the injury happen?
I was 2 weeks into college on a baseball scholarship and got to play one college game. And the very next day, some people were playing a pickup game of football. And that's how I got my neck broke, is in that play. And that was the year of 1983.
Wow. Do you ever run that back through your head, like how you could have done that differently, whether you didn't play or anything? Just
early when I first got hurt, yeah, I would think, what if I'd kept walking? Because actually, what happened is my team had got the ball back, and I told them I'd been out there playing for about 2 hours, and I need to get my stuff ready for class next day. And so I told them I was done playing. I walked out. And I got maybe, 10 feet from the huddle, and I heard someone say, "We need someone to run the ball." So I stopped and turned around and said, "All right, I'll come back for one more play." And so that one play is when I got my neck broke, paralyzed instantly. And, early in when I first got hurt, I would think, what could have been if I would have kept walking? But there's no anything in that anymore because, I don't know what could have been. Who knows? And I know where I'm at now, and we're comfortable with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and football is such a violent sport. I love it, but I don't play it. And you see,
yeah. Well, what we were playing was a pickup game of football. No helmets, no pads, but it was tackle football. And I actually on that play scored a touchdown and put the ball down and was turning back towards everybody at the field. And then that's when the guy hit me when I wasn't ready.
Wow.
And again, broke my neck and was paralyzed instantly. As soon as I heard the pop, I tried to get up, and nothing. I couldn't get anything up.
Wow. Did that you ever keep in touch with did that guy ever really feel bad? I'm sure he probably did. The hit, because you were so young.
I would hope that he felt bad, but I would love to meet him again now to let him know that life has turned out better than what everyone anticipated. But I think he came to the hospital once when I was injured in the hospital. And the only reason I think he came in is I was on what's called a striker frame, and to prevent any bed sores. So they would, I would lay on my back for 2 hours and look at the ceiling, but then they would come in and put all this stuff on me and then turn the bed over basically. And then I would, like a rotisserie chicken thing, and then I would just face the floor for an hour, and what I was laying on, they would take off of me so blood could circulate better. And so, but one day I was looking at the floor, and two guys came in to visit, and we talked for a while, and they gave their names. I don't remember them. And the only reason I think it may have been him is when the two guys left, I heard the door shut, and then I heard someone open the door and say, "I'm sorry, man," and then shut the door again.
Yeah. Wow.
Other than that, I couldn't pinpoint him up in a lineup or anything like that.
Yeah,
so,
of course. And you said you actually played baseball, like that was your sport.
Baseball was my sport. I was wanting to go professional, and had a couple of teams looking at me,
Oh,
and
really?
so I was hoping to go professional. Yeah, and yep, that was it.
What was your position?
Well, I was a left-handed pitcher and left-handed hitter, and played first base and outfield. So I would have
A little bit of
back
everything.
in those days. In high school and under, you get to do everything. You can pitch and play and hit and do everything. Then when you get into college, I guess they make you specialized.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I hadn't specialized. Coach had me in the outfield, and he liked my hitting. So,
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Did like do you like how much do you remember of like before all this happened? Like, did you take this for granted as far as like your legs and the body movement and everything that you had before this accident?
oh yeah, when I was growing up, I was one of them that thought I was invincible. Nothing was going to hurt, happen to me. That nothing would stop me, and I was going to get this professional contract, and it was going to be because of all of my doings. And I thought I was that good, but yeah, I had that invincibility that nothing would help me. And obviously, thinking that way, I took a lot of stuff for granted. The walking, the getting around easy, getting in and out of bed easy, dressing myself. At that time, feeding myself. I couldn't even feed myself at that time. Nurses and my family would feed me. So yeah, a lot of stuff was taken for granted when you have that invincibility attitude.
Yeah, of course. Especially, when you're young like that, it's hard to really think that anything could come and just disrupt your life. I mean, because when we're kind of born in this world where we're super vulnerable and innocent, and then life takes over and we go in whatever direction life pretty much takes us. And then, as it goes on, at some point that invincibility is going to probably be challenged. Unfortunately for you, it got challenged to the max. But
Yes, 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 yes. And like you was talking about, there's points in life when we've got to live with the decisions we make. We got that fork in the road. They say if I go left, this is going to happen, or I can go right, this will possibly happen. And you decide to go, and one day you take the right, and hey, you're in heaven, everything's going great, everything's smooth as silk. And then you come to another fork, and you go, hey, I'm going to go left this time, and then all of a sudden you're hitting rock bottom and everything. And so, yeah, we're left with decisions to make, and then we've got to deal with those decisions and do the best we can and go from there.
yeah, that's why it's really key for like every generation to look out for the next one. Like as far as whatever your family and the people that their parents, and just continue to pass on good values, because a lot of times when these kids act out and do stupid things or have certain mentalities is because of poor leadership, whether it's coaching, whether it's their parents or whoever, teachers.
Yeah.
If they would just guide them in the right direction. Like today I had a guy, I'm filling these vending machines, and a guy comes up and says, hey, can I have free 5 sodas? And I said, well, that ain't gonna happen. And so he knew I wasn't gonna give him anything. So before he walked away and went out of the building, he went and told his son, hey, he's gonna give you a free soda, which I didn't say that. And then you just
Yeah.
you look at that and you go like, dude, come on, you're the dad. Like, teach this kid right. Don't think he's gonna get free things all the time, and like, because you put me in a position where I actually have to be mean to the kid.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I've yet to understand this lower, like you said, the younger group, the generations where they believe that in sports, what I'm talking more of is that everybody should get a trophy, whether you finish first or last.
yes,
You
absolutely.
know, you're rewarding for bad play. And I'm just not into that. So
Yeah, we've gotten to this place now where, because again, like real sports teaches you, like in professional and college and even high school, you're gonna really learn that there's no such thing as that. Maybe when you're a kid, they have these little trophies and there's these little side leagues and stuff, but the NFL, there is no, hey, let's just let everybody play and everybody's going to win a Super Bowl ring. That doesn't happen.
No, exactly. So yeah, and what are you teaching the kids when they're that young? I understand. I understand if mom and dad want to buy a trophy, but the league shouldn't do it. If mom and dad want to buy a trophy because you did great and mom and dad's proud, that's one thing. But other than that, what are you teaching the kids? I can half-ass play and I'm going to get a trophy. Life is not like that. You're not going to keep getting a paycheck if you do half your job.
Right, and that's some of the values.
They're not teaching the kids that. They're going to be used to everybody give and give and give and give and give. Then when they got in the real world, they're going, wait a minute, why ain't y'all giving to me? So
yeah, absolutely, yeah, and then that's some of the values where it's like you could pass to your kid if your kid thinks he gets something for everything he does. Oh man, bullet! Oh, sorry, my cat pulled my headphones out.
Oh, that's okay.
He couldn't have got
your cat made an appearance on my show.
Yeah, yeah, bullet.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's certain values like if you don't pass it on properly, like when a kid just thinks he's supposed to have everything, it's like, oh, you get a trophy for this. Well, like, and I'm sure you could attest to this as a person who learned from mistakes, especially ones that cost you part of your body. You life really the bad and the falls you learn way more from than from the success, unless the success comes from a really long journey of pain and misery and trying to overcome, but you constantly get knocked on your ass. But once you actually, like, when you actually do achieve it, it's great, but you learn so much from when you get knocked down than probably more than you do when you win.
Well, and it's worth more when you beat the system, the so-called bad things that come to you, and when you beat them and then you're able to get that success, it's more rewarding. It feels better.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, like, if you just keep telling every kid, like, hey, everything's going to be fine, it's not. Because at some point, even on a basic level, like, the people that matter most to you, especially the older ones, are probably going to die before you. You're probably going to get injured at some point, or you're not going to pass every class or whatever it is. Like, every job you go for is there's a journey to it. You can't just expect everything to go your way. But if we go down this mentality of, especially with the politically correctness and everything is just hunky-dory and no one thinks anything and everything is just positive and great, which is a lie. Because people like to say, like, well, what about the kids? We got to think about the kids. Well, really, all we're teaching the kids nowadays is just to be phony and lie, because there's really no guidance anymore. The kids, there's no real rules or anything. It's just, everything's great and everyone should be happy and we all should just give each other hugs. And it's like,
and then again, the sad thing, when they get old enough and get away from mom and dad, then real life comes and really kicks them in the butt hard. And they're not prepared for it.
Right. And some of the stuff that they're trying to put out there, in theory, they're great. Like when people say equality. Equality is a great thing, but it's not realistic in most ways, because as a person, we're not equal. I mean, look at, you have better eyes than me and I can walk. We're not equal. It doesn't mean I'm a better person than you. It doesn't mean you're a better person than me. It's just, we're not equal. And to the rest of the world, as far as like able-bodied people, we're definitely not equal. And again, that's okay. But it's, again, I understand for equal rights, for, there shouldn't be a racial thing, anything with racial stuff or gender or any of that. If you're a good worker, then you should have the job. There shouldn't be a tie system or anything. It's just, if you're the better worker, you should have the job. But like I said, there's words that people throw around like equality, and it sounds great, but it's not really true.
Well, there's only one time and place that we're equal, and that's when the sperm cell gets up there with the egg cell, and then it's united. Then after that, we're never equal. Yeah. I mean, what poor woman can get the food to need while she's pregnant, the nutrients, the fetus, or taking crack or smoking, where another woman is being healthy as possible. And even then, if something goes wrong from a pesticide in the air she breathes, and then causes a problem. So the only time we're equal is when that sperm cell and that egg unite. After that, before birth, we're not equal ever again. Again, how many people are born in the celebrity realm and they got it the rest of their life to be money and famous, and then how many people born into the poor category and they stay that way the rest of their life? So when people are all created equal, that's the only places when you're created, when those two sperm and the cell meet. After that, it's not equal.
Well, even like, you being an athlete, there's people that just are born with a gift. Yes, they have to work hard. There's the mentality that goes into it. But there's some people that are just born. Like, there's always that one kid in your school that is like 6'4" and he's 12. And you're like, Jesus Christ, like, you're going to play basketball. Now, again, doesn't mean they always do, but a lot of times it's like, this kid is built for something physical. And there's people that just, again, I was good at basketball. I could shoot. Regardless of my eye condition, I was decent. But I didn't have like a gift. I just put time into it to where I could shoot a little bit.
What I couldn't stand, and I coached for a while, as well as played, is you would see these people that I considered were natural athletes, but then they put a half-assed job into practice and stuff. Now, come game time, they're ready to put out, but practice, they don't do anything more than they have to do, and then, here I am trying to do everything I can do. But yeah, that's what I don't get is, again, like I said, they're gifted, but then they don't want to use their full potential.
Right. So what was your like initial reaction? Like once, like when did it like kind of sink in your head that like your life is like going to be changing for the good, or just at least for the seeable future?
First, got injured. I'm laying on the campus green. That was the field we cut playing football on was campus green at that time. And so I'm laying. I tried 3 times to get up, and because the first time I tried to get up to fight the guy, and my head only came up, nothing else. And then the second time I tried to get up to fight the guy again, and it didn't come up again, nothing. And so the third time they say, three's the charm. So I tried the third time, and after that, the head come up, nothing else come up. And as soon as that happened, I knew I was paralyzed instantly, and I started thinking of a man that I'd met when I was about 12 or 14 years old, and his name was JT. And I used to go to the nursing home and visit my grandfather in the nursing home. And I would go visit him and help him what he needed, what I could. But one day I went to go visit, and this JT had come in, and he was 2 rooms before I got to my grandfather. So one day I was going in, and all of a sudden I heard, as I'm passing by JT's room, I heard, "Hey, buddy, come here for a minute." And I go in his room, and he didn't tell me he's paralyzed. He just says, "Hey, can you hold that glass of water so I can get a drink from that straw?" I said, "Yeah." And so I held the water for him and looked at him, and I could see he couldn't move from his neck down. And so come to find out he was in a car accident. And so when I'm laying on the field, first thing I'm thinking of is I'm going to be in a nursing home at the age of 19. I was thinking of JT at that time.
Yeah. Wow. How old was he? Do you know, like roughly?
I think at that time he was in his mid-30s. Now, I don't know how long he's been in and out of nursing homes. I don't know that.
Yeah.
And I would, and so from that point on, I don't know, I don't remember exactly. It may be 6 months, maybe a year. I stopped in and say hi to JT, and then he wasn't there one day. So I don't know if he went to a different nursing home or if he passed away or what. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary when you watch professional players and they have to be carted out. And it's always nice when they put their arms up and they can give the thumbs up and all that. And it's always great because, there's some players that really take some really rough hits. But you guys were doing it on I don't know if it was grass or concrete or whatever you're doing, but no pads. Like, the body is very fragile no matter how athletic and muscular you are. One wrong move
and
you can...
protective gear, yeah. And we were playing a regular, grass, dirt area. Yeah.
Yeah, that's oof. Yeah. So you were pretty sure, regardless of what, before you even got to the hospital, that you were pretty much going to be paralyzed forever?
I didn't. No, I never. When I first got hurt, I didn't think I'd be paralyzed forever. Again, that invincibility was still in me at that time, and so I knew that probably more than likely my baseball career was over with, that I'll never play baseball again. And so knew that. But I always thought, because in being invincible and how strong I used to be, I thought that I would be up walking one day. I thought that, even if I'm dragging a leg and limping, I figured I would be walking. And I went to like 18 different rehabs in the first 5 years of my injury, trying to find that cure to walk again. And after 5 years and the 18th one, I decided apparently this is going to take longer than I thought. And so I kind of lied to my family and myself, which at that time wasn't a lie, but after looking back, it was a lie. But what I was telling my family when I got done with that last visit, I said, if I'm going to have any type of life, I need to go back to college, get some type of degree. Because at that time, I didn't know anybody in my area that was in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I'm going to need a degree to compete against anybody else getting jobs. And so that's when I went back to school then, from there, yeah. And then, like I said, I told my family, said, not that I'm quitting trying to walk, but this has got to be put on the back burner for me to get an education so I can, get out and be on my own and have my own house one day and stuff. And so, again, at that time, it wasn't a lie, but I can say now, 34 years later, I've not one time gone to a rehab searching to walk. Now, I've been to rehabs to try to get stronger and some stuff and transferring, but to look for a place that's helping with walking, I hadn't been to one in 34 years. So eventually it turned out being a lie, but it wasn't at that time.
Right. Yeah. Did you progress at all from any of your rehabs? Just even a little bit?
For the first 5 years, I had gotten, like I said, but when I got out of the hospital, getting ready to get out of the hospital, I was told I would never walk again, possibly not move from my neck down. And the doctors told my mom and brothers that they should put me in a nursing home because I would be too much of a burden for them to provide care for.
Wow.
And so we were hard-headed. I was hard-headed. They were hard-headed. So we came home and basically started on physical therapy program. And then home health physical therapy would come in. His name was Dr. Udot. I think it was Udot. He was good, an older gentleman. And they about a year and a half after I got home, I got to where I could stand up by myself and with a walker, walk for about 10 feet with a walker.
That's pretty good.
And so, but after 5 years, there was that same 10 feet. I mean, I can go 20, 30 feet, but I feel like I run a mile after that. And so, so I could stand up 10, 15 minutes again, but it felt like I run a mile. And the time seemed like it never got any better, no matter how much I tried. So, yeah, after the first year and a half, everything, I guess, peaked out. And then again, that's, I would go to these rehabs and go, look what we've been able to do for ourselves. And I would stand up and show them. I said, now with y'all's professional help, we ought to get a lot more. And they would all tell me, nope, you've probably come as far as you can. And they wouldn't even take me in to do it. Most of them were one-day evaluations and then turn around and come back.
Wow. Yeah, that's sad. But I mean, so what is your body function? What is your daily movement now?
Oh, I push my own wheelchair around. Got a van that I drive. Before I got the van, I was driving me a nice Mustang, and because I used to be able to get in and out of it. Now those things are so low to the ground, I can't do it now. So I got a nice van that I just roll my wheelchair up behind the steering wheel and lock in and take off. And my brother helps me get into bed and out of bed. Other than that, I'm up all day and cook for myself, and used to teach and coach for a while, and health went down, and so I had to get out of that. But everything's now again. Since all this, it's when I started my own podcast.
Right.
It's called Professor of Perseverance, and where we interview people like you do of overcoming their adversities. And so I do that. Got a YouTube show and tried to motivational speak, and wrote a couple of books. And So that's what I do now.
So so like, how did you get to this? Like, when did you like finally get comfortable with the idea of like, okay, this is my life, and I'm gonna make it work for me as best as I can?
So that goes back to that 5 years plan when after 5 years and the 18th visits when I said I got to put that all in on the back burner and go forward, and that's when everything seemed to my attitude adjusted from there because I was depressed for the first 5 years because going to these places they say no, we can't do anything, and then I'm going, we've done all this much, you can't do anything, and I'd be depressed, but I would hide it from my family, but they saw through it. And so, when I first, it would be that when I finally decided to put everything in the back and go to college. And because by then I was again standing to transfer in and out of cars and getting in and out the shower bench and on and off the toilet and dressing. I was totally independent until I couldn't stand up anymore. And that's why my brother has to help me get in and out of bed now.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's the one
But
thing, that's not bad.
I got into teaching and coaching. Did that for about 12, 13 years, and then like I said, my health went down, and had to quit that. And then on that, actually, I don't want to get deep into your show with it, but I attempted suicide 3 times in 3 days. That's how bad I wanted out.
Wow.
And I jokingly tell people, you live through a suicide attempt, they make you see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And it was during that time is when he told me that God still has a plan for me because he didn't take me on those 3 attempts. And and he encouraged me to get into public speaking, motivational and inspirational speaking, and write a book about my how I got in the wheelchair and overcome, and then use the stuff for my teaching, advice, and then so I got into speaking. Then after that, just when I hopped into YouTube, and then I hopped in just short 2 years ago with the podcast.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like, so your suicide attempts, were you like just taking a lot of pills or what?
The first day I wrote my suicide letter and actually went to my bank and had $47,000 in the bank. And I went in and told them I need my money withdrawn now. Cause I was dumb. I didn't know I didn't know who was going to get to my account. I was worried about the government or something taking it because I didn't have a will. And because I wanted to make sure my mom and brothers got it. And so I go to the bank and tell them, I got to have my money. I got to have it withdrawn today. And they're going, we can't pull that kind of money out today. Yes, you can. You're a bank. And they said, we can. We can give it to you. But this is on a Friday. So we can give it to you on a Wednesday. And I go, Wednesday? I ain't going to be here Wednesday. That's what I told them. And they eventually said, we can give you $2,000 cash and you just have to come back. And so I asked for an application, whatever, so I can put my mom on the account. That way to make sure she can get it. And so, in my suicide letter, the application's in there, $2,000 cash, all my credit card, debit cards are hidden in there, and dumb me puts that into the mail, right? $2,000 cash we send in the mail to my mom on a Friday for her to get it Monday. And so Saturday I attempted suicide by taking Sudafed. Sudafed says, don't take no more than 6 or 8 doses in a whole day. I can't remember 6 or 8. And so I had 2 packs of it, 24 pills in one pack, 24 in another pack. So I took 48 pills in 3 minutes.
Jesus. And
then I got out of my wheelchair, laid on the floor. That way, if I started feeling bad, I wouldn't dial 911. So I got out of my wheelchair, laid on the floor, and sad thing to say is all it did was give me a headache.
Oh, no.
So I didn't even get a good night's sleep with all that in me. So the next day, was actually Super Bowl Sunday, and it was when the undefeated Patriots are playing the Giants.
Right.
And so that morning, I called Walmart, I guess. I think it was Walmart. I called them and said, because I got the Sudafed 2 packs at Walgreens, had to sign a form because they passed that law about the Sudafed being given out and buying so much. So I had to sign paper And so the next day it was Walmart, and I asked them, I said, hey, I'm having a zombie. I can't sleep. What do you recommend? They said Benadryl. And I looked at my thing, and I was going, well, all I got is $6. So I sent all the other money to them. So I go and buy one pack again. Same thing. Don't take over a certain amount, cause don't drive any heavy machineries and stuff. And so I took all 24 of them in 3 minutes. And all I did was miss the Super Bowl and wake up to hear the Giants beat the undefeated Patriots.
Huh. Wow.
But this time I couldn't get out of my wheelchair on the floor. It's not that I couldn't, because my brother came in the night before and asked what had happened. I'm on the floor, and I had to lie to him and say, well, I was cleaning my glasses and I dropped them, and I was leaning over to pick them up, and I just fell out. Well, this time I couldn't do that because I'm thinking if I don't die, well, I don't want to put him in that predicament. Then he's going to start figuring something out.
Right.
So I just stayed in my chair the whole time. And, all I did was sleep, missed the Super Bowl, and found out that the Giants won. So then the very next day, I was still teaching at that time. I asked for a leave of absence for medical purposes. And so over the weekend, I left a bunch of messages to teachers at the school. I wouldn't call them at their own house because I knew they'd be running over to me, and knew that Monday they would check messages. So 6 in the morning, I'm getting all these phone calls now from all these teachers worried about me. The principal's called worried. And I told them, y'all just worrying too much. But now I don't have any money getting any more Benadryls or anything. So now I get my van and the garage, and it's, doors are shut. And I start the engine and get out of my wheelchair and lay on the van floor to take in carbon monoxide. And then somebody come to visit, and they found me back there and called 911. And so there it is.
They saved your life.
They did. Yeah, eventually. At that time I didn't want it. But they did.
Yeah. Was there a certain part though, like when you were landed in the emergency room or wherever you ended up, did you start to actually think like this is stupid? Like when did you actually come to the realization of okay, I can't kill myself? Or like when did you get to the point where it's like, did you either go to I can't kill myself or I don't want to kill myself? After the third time.
When they found me and called 911, they said I wasn't breathing, and the guy said he didn't know CPR, so they were just slapping me in my face trying to get a reaction. And the paramedics got there and supposedly told them 10 more minutes I would have been dead. And so I was in the hospital for 7 weeks from all that. When they first got me into the hospital, they put me in a hyperbaric chamber to force the carbon monoxide out of my body and the oxygen in. And so that was like for 4 hours. And then but when I was laying on the van floor, the engine kept sputtering. And I'm assuming nowadays they've got a sensor that when it's too much carbon dioxide, it shuts the engine off now. Years ago, they would just keep running no matter how much carbon dioxide in that. And so it kept sputtering. Finally, it quit. And so then all of a sudden, I'm thinking, oh, great. Now I'm going to be alive, but I'm going to be brain damaged. It'd be worse for everybody else. So then all of a sudden, I just started huffing deep and hard and everything, taking in carbon monoxide. And so, again, I don't know how long I was there, and before they found me, I don't know how long. But, yeah. I was in the hospital for a while, and they had a psychiatrist come in to see me in my room, and we would talk. I don't know. It was a couple of months before. I didn't think about doing suicide again, just because I didn't want to put my mom through it again. Just meeting with the counselor, and the purpose. Let me tell you this: the purpose of trying suicide is because, like I said, I used to be able to stand up, transfer, do everything. 1 year I'm getting ready to go teach, and this first day of school, I get my shoes out from underneath the dresser drawers underneath the bottom, and I see a spider web in there. So I took a rag, wiped it out. I should have sprayed something in there, and because apparently I got bit by a brown recluse on the bottom of my foot, and we didn't know with blister was on my heel, and it got about the size of a tennis ball, all that poison in it. Finally busted and saw all that black tissue. And I was actually in school when it called my doctor, And they said, you need to get over here now. I said, well, can I come after school? Let me finish this. They said, no, because that dead tissue, it's going to poison your body. So they did an emergency surgery to remove all that dead tissue. So then they told me, don't stand on the new tissue trying to grow because it'll tear the new tissue. So then after 4 or 5, 6 months of not standing, I lost the strength to stand. So that's when I needed help getting in and out of bed. But that went on for about a year. Now I'm feeling like a burden to everybody because I used to be able to do all this stuff. Now I feel like a burden to everybody. My younger brother was a functional alcoholic. He'd work during the day, but then he'd get home and drink. And so one time I noticed just before I got hurt, or before the spider bite, that noticed he'd gotten jaundice, and we took him to the hospital, and he was in there for a week. And they found they told him he continued drinking the way he was. They gave him 10% chance to live 5 more years. But while he was in there, they found he had a hernia and a bleeding ulcer. And my brother was an auto mechanic, so he's picking up all these heavy motor parts and stuff. And they told him, with this hernia and ulcer, don't pick up anything heavy because if it busts open. And so one night I couldn't get into bed, had to call my younger brother. He came over and helped me in bed, and then he died that same night. And so I felt so bad that I killed him, that if I could have got in bed, he would be alive. And so that's what we had to work through with the therapist and counseling, that it wasn't truly my fault. He didn't quit drinking, and so that's what I had to work through.
Yeah, those major setbacks with your health is always a bad thing. And when you get to the point where you feel like you're a burden on other people, and I've been there, and I know many people that have, that part's hard to really get out of your mind, because you feel like it. Even though these people love you and they care about you and they don't care about it, it's hard, because when you look at the rest of the world and how they perceive us, a lot of times we kind of feel like we really are a burden. But the people in our lives don't really see it that way. It's just...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with psychologists. Even my mom had noticed, because he died in October, and I attempted everything, January 31st and the Super Bowl day and the 2nd. And she had noticed something. About a week earlier before I attempted, she said, that when Andy died, that he came over to help you. It wasn't that he was afraid he was going to die from helping you. He just wanted to help you so you can get to school and teach those kids and coach your basketball. And I just listened to her talk. I go, yeah, because I didn't want her to worry. And so, then that's when I finally attempted.
Yeah, because that almost makes you feel worse. It's like, oh, he died sacrificing his body for me. Like, it's got to feel, you got to feel like shit, even though, of course, it's not really the majority of it. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, that's what the therapy was, for me to realize, if he wasn't the alcoholic he was and wasn't drinking, things would have been different, so and realize that he did this to help me to love, because he loved me and wanted me to have a good life. And so it took a while. Again, I had to see this psychologist for like a year before, and that's when, again, told me I need to get into public speaking and motivational speaking and write a book, and then from there to the YouTube and podcasting.
How because this is something that I've figured out even with myself in the last 2 years. Like, how quickly did you pick up that you became comfortable with sharing your pain? Because I know I'm sure you obviously you had a lot of shame in what you were going through, but at some point it just becomes normal. And when you meet other people, when you get to help others, that pain isn't as prominent as it was, and it there's a lot of beautiful things that come from it, and you can learn to be comfortable and accept who you are and not even worry about other people.
Yeah. When I was writing the book, and actually it took me 12 years to write that book. I had already started writing it, 10 years before all this took place. And I said, it's a miracle in itself, because we buy new computers, that I didn't lose that manuscript, because if I would have lost it, I wouldn't have gone back and done it. And so going into writing that book, I wrote about the suicide stuff. And, I tell people, I'm not proud of what I did and everything like that during that time. But it's my story. It's my life, and it's led me to where I'm at today. And so because I've lived through it, I'm not ashamed of it. I'll tell people, I'll talk to them. Again, you don't know if you find somebody else is already hurting and thinking about it, and then you give them a spark to keep them going. You never know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's like, I'm really big on that stuff, like mental health and talking about suicide, because there's a lot of people that really think that like you're a coward for you doing it and all. And it's like, look, you can't put yourself in someone's shoes. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they're struggling with. It's kind of like when you have a dream and the tone of the dream is really dark, but when you explain it to people, it just sounds silly. But you can't really explain the feeling of it. And so like when you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with depression, and it's consuming you and it's completely just ripping you apart. And regardless of whatever you're worried about, even if it's not that big of a deal to anyone, even if you were outside your own mind and you were able to just, be sober of it and be able to look at yourself and go, well, this is crazy. You're not in that headspace. So you really don't know how much they're battling and how much they're dealing. And if you can't comprehend that, then you can't say someone is a coward or they're selfish or anything, because you don't know how messed up the brain can become from trauma.
Exactly, because I used to be the same way. I knew other people that they were down and out, and friends of mine, they had talked suicide, and they didn't do it. They didn't attempt it. But I would do the same thing. Oh, man, just get over it. You got to just get over it. Don't even think about it. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, but once I finally went through it, people that's never been through it and thought about it enough to attempt, that they don't know. Just saying getting over it ain't going to help. You got to help them get over it in whatever ways. And yeah, until they understand what's going through the mind, chemical imbalance, the emotional dealing with it. Yeah. They don't understand, and they can give all the advice they want. But they've never lived through it, and they truly don't know.
No, absolutely. And even, I've had attempted suicide myself, and I've dealt with mental health my whole life, and I can understand some of your story, but I can understand a good part of it, but I also don't know, because again, you just don't know where someone's head's at. But when I get from what you were saying with your attempts, like when you really are in your own mind and you can actually or look outside yourself and you can see like all the stupid things you did, a lot of it is so ridiculous, but at the time it seems reasonable. It seems like the thing to do, like you taking these medications. You don't even know if they actually could kill you, but
yeah,
you're so desperate to just kill the pain, the mental, the voices talking, anything that just, you want it all to stop. And it really is technically the easy way out. Once you can get to the point of, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore. It's the easy way out, because now you don't have to live with any of the problems and you don't have to solve them.
You don't have to live with the pain any longer and everything. And then you convince yourself how much better the family will be that I'm not here, that they don't have to help me get into bed, or they don't have to help me get dressed, and you convince yourself that without you, yes, the family will be sad for a while, but life will go on and they'll be a lot better than what they're having to deal with me. Yeah. And so you convince yourself in that as well, even though not all that's true. Yes, they will get over it. They will move forward and everything, but still, they would still want you to be here, even though they were doing more work.
Yeah. And imagine how messed up your family would have been after your brother died and then you kill yourself. Like, that would have been a twofer in a week.
Yeah, it was within 5 months, October to the end of January, February. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you pushed through and persevered with that, because, as a person that struggled with it, it's hard, but when you can come out of it, like I've said before, there's a lot of beautiful things that can come from it. And obviously what you're doing with your podcast and YouTube and everything. What was your idea behind starting your podcast?
Well, first, when I started my YouTube channel, it was for me to help with my speaking business. people get to see, 7 or 8 minutes of samples of stuff I talk about. And then finally, I started a podcast, I don't know, 3 years ago. And all I was going to do is read like 5-minute powerful short stories and let people get it. And after about, 2 months, nobody was coming in listening for that. And so then I started interviewing people. And then health problems came in and I had to stop. And then I started back up on June 12th. It was approaching. And it'd be 2 years then that we've been going since then. And by June 12th, we'll have 170 episodes going. And you're in there as well. I think your number is 164 or 63, I think. 163.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, like probably my last question, like when you do have these like health setbacks, obviously they suck regardless, but is it easier, and even just your mental setbacks, is it easier now that you're, I don't know, you're stronger and you've been through so much, is it easier for you to kind of get yourself out of it and just, still find some happiness?
And before I answer that, let me go back to, because you asked about getting into podcasts. So one of my things was it wasn't just to interview people. It was my opportunity to provide a platform for other people to get their stories out.
Right.
Enough people has heard my story. Let's see if I can help, 1,000 people get their stories out. And so that was my purpose then, is to serve the fellow man and everybody else out there. And yeah, you know how it is on the last question. We're still humans. There's days we're going to have poor pitiful me. We just got to jump out as quick as we can. And then fortunately we have more better days than bad days.
Yeah.
I have found for me that when I'm in one of those moods, that I got a service dog, Ricardo, and I find that when I'm in one of them moods, I take him to his favorite walking establishment, and he gets to meet new people, and just watching them light up because of him helps me out. And you wouldn't believe how many people that they would come pet him and hug him, and they're all over him. And then I look up and they're crying, and they said they just put their dog down, 6 or 8 months ago, and they thanked me for sharing him with them.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a black lab.
Okay.
And so so whenever I get those days, I want to get him on out and let him get some exercise, meet some new people, and I get to watch the joy that he gives everybody.
Yeah, animals is definitely my soft spot, and anytime I see anyone's pet, I mean, I have my cat who I love, but any animal I see, it's just they bring a lot of joy and they get you through a lot of times. And I've said on here before. Go ahead. What?
No, I was going to say that they give you that unconditional love. They don't care.
Yeah, no judgment, and where you stand with them. Yeah, my one cat, I've said on here multiple times that the cat I have now, I love, and we're becoming best friends. But the cat I had before him, she got me through some of my worst mental times,
Oh, yeah.
And I've said I don't think I'll ever love anything more than I loved her. And it doesn't mean she's technically a better cat than the one I have, because technically he's more loving. It's just she got me through some of the worst times, and I'll never forget that, because I'm loyal even to animals.
And they sense when we're not feeling right, and they'll come then. Ricardo will come put his head on my lap, just to look at me and for me to pet him, because he knows something ain't right. And so they sense that as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and you never feel judged.
One guy told me. He said he knows that his dog loves him more than his wife loves him. I said, really? And he said, well, let me give you an example. He said, I can take my dog and put him in the trunk of my car and close the trunk. Come back an hour later, he's wagging that tail and licking me in the face. He said, I put my wife in there for an hour, and she's cussing and screaming and hitting me.
Yeah. There's certain things you cannot do, and it's kind of hard to talk yourself out of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I got you. Did we cover everything, buddy? I don't want to miss anything that was important.
I think we got to the biggest part of the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah. Do you want to tell? You said you have 2 books. You want to say the titles of your books?
Oh, I got 8 books. 8 books. I got 5.
Okay.
I got 5 5 little children's books that are all about my dog, Ricardo, and he helps with different disabilities to help out with, and at the end we talk about those different disabilities.
Oh, that's cool.
And so one of them is actually his Christmas book, and he gets to help Santa and Rudolph pass out gifts at the house. So but the other books I got, my first one, How I Got in a Wheelchair, is called One More Play. And then I've got one where I went through cancer, and it says Cancer, Story of Blessing, something and something, I forgot. So, and then another one, last one I got out is called, Your Past Doesn't Have a Future, but You Do. Create Your Future Today. And it just talks about how many people living in the past because did something stupid 40 years ago or 5 minutes ago, and then they want to continue blaming themselves instead of forgiving themselves and moving forward.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. And what's your podcast called again? I know what it is, but
podcast and the YouTube channel, both of them is Professor of Perseverance.
That's awesome. Well, buddy, I appreciate you for coming on. You're a great guy, and I'm just happy you're still here and you're overcoming and persevering.
But TJ, I'm glad that our paths crossed. I'm glad I got to meet you and get your story up and going. And you're doing awesome yourself. And I'm glad that you got your podcast going, and that way you're helping people that I'm not going to be able to reach out to.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you as well.
No, I got you. So let's stay friends and keep in touch. And anything you need, just even if you need someone to talk to, just message me anytime.
I got you, buddy. Peace.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right.
All right, guys. Another great one. I just try to give you guys these guests, and he came across my way. He was through Podmatch, but again, he actually approached me first through their wanting me on his show, and it was a nice talk. So I will put the link on my Facebook, maybe even my Instagram, just to give everybody a chance to watch our episode. It was a good one, so I appreciate him a lot. He's a good guy, and like I love when you talk to him, someone like him, because it's like, this may sound stupid, but like, you don't know that he's disabled. Like, obviously you could if you saw him in a wheelchair, but you talk to a person like him and you just go like, yeah, he just got a good spirit to him. He doesn't let it beat him down. And it doesn't mean it doesn't sometimes, because mine does to me, and I don't always show it. But it gives hope to anybody who's going through suicide or, thoughts, and somebody who's in a wheelchair, somebody who's just going through some sort of pain, no matter what type of pain it is. And it gives hope to them that someone like him can still be happy and still live a life and give back to those that don't feel like they have a purpose around in the world. So sorry, I'm really tired. As you can tell, I'm dying down. But yeah, guys, good luck to everybody out there. Everyone just, I don't know, just keep an open mind and open eye. Just to anything can happen anymore. This world is crazy, and there's always tragedy everywhere you look. But there's some good things out there too. So just everyone try to find something to make yourself smile. I know it sounds cheesy, but so be it. I'll see you guys next week, and good luck to everybody who's going through something. Regardless of what it is, just hang in there and try to stay strong. All right, guys. See ya.